Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. 1 Minute Apologist. Apologetics seeks to give credible answers to curious questions, to give a defense. Is homosexuality considered a sin in the New Testament? The Bible says in Leviticus 18:22, "You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination." Actor Ian McKellen, who was Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, once said, "Whenever I stay at a hotel, I always check to see if they have a Gideon Bible. And if they do, I tear out a page," says the openly gay actor. "I turn to Leviticus 18:22 and I rip out that page, which is directed against homosexuals. I think by now I must have ripped out a few hundred pages." Some would want to say, based on Leviticus 18:22, that homosexuality is okay. That was in the Old Testament, so today that doesn't apply. But is that the case? We need to understand the way the word was working. There were three laws. There was the civil law, there was the moral law, and there was the ceremonial law. The civil law was in place because the Israelites were under a theocracy where God, or Yahweh, was their leader. Then we had the ceremonial law, or the dietary law, that was in place. But the moral law is the one law that still holds fast. Jesus came to fulfill the law, but we know even in Acts chapter 10, when it comes to dietary issues, some will say, yeah, but Bobby, in the book of Leviticus, they're not supposed to eat rare meat and they're supposed to eat kosher. Well, we know according to Acts chapter 10, Peter had this vision of these unclean animals coming down on a sheet. And what does he hear? After God says, go ahead, rise, kill and eat, Peter says to Jesus, no, I can't eat what is unclean. And Jesus says, don't call unclean what I've called clean. In other words, the dietary or the ceremonial law is no longer in effect. But we know clearly when we look in the New Testament, according to Romans chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, and other places, that homosexuality falls within the moral law. Now, finally, here's what I would want to say. In the same chapter in Leviticus 18, it also talks about incest and bestiality. Would we want to apply the same logic and say homosexuality is no longer relevant and no longer is bestiality or incest? No, those three issues are moral issues which fall under the moral law.